The sea lay smooth and glassy that morning, the kind of calm that seasoned sailors know better than to trust. It was the sort of quiet that often arrived before a challenge. Along the naval pier, the base stirred awake at an unhurried pace. Boots struck metal decking in steady rhythm as officers and enlisted personnel assembled into formation. Flags shifted softly in the breeze. Gulls wheeled overhead, and the familiar scent of salt, mixed with steel, hung in the air. It was inspection day, public, formal, and exacting. Every detail mattered. Buttons, creases, posture, and timing all spoke a language older than anyone standing on the pier. Among the lines of sailors stood one man who drew little notice. His uniform was neat but unadorned. His stance was correct but not attention-grabbing. He remained where he had been placed, eyes forward, hands still. Long ago he had learned that standing out was not always an advantage. Quiet could protect better than noise. Around the base, he was simply known as the quiet sailor. Some believed he lacked confidence. Others assumed he was inexperienced, or worse, insignificant. When senior officers arrived, the formation snapped to life. Heels aligned, backs straightened, and salutes rose in sharp, practiced precision. The motion traveled smoothly down the ranks until it reached the quiet sailor. Then the rhythm faltered. No salute was offered to him, not a single one. A ripple of unease passed through the formation. A few sailors glanced toward him, then quickly away. One smirked. Another subtly shook his head as if to say this was expected. The quiet sailor did nothing. He did not speak, shift, or protest. His gaze remained fixed ahead, his breathing steady, as though the moment had no weight at all. The inspecting officer noticed the breaking cadence and paused. His eyes followed the line until they settled on the quiet sailor. Why was no salute rendered? He asked, his tone controlled but unmistakably firm. Silence followed. No one answered. After a moment stretched thin, a junior officer spoke carefully. "Sir, we assumed his rank wasn't." The inspecting officer raised a hand. "Assumed," he repeated quietly, letting the word linger. He stepped closer and studied the quiet sailor, not just the uniform, but the bearing, the restraint, the discipline that couldn't be sewn into fabric. "Sailor," he said, "state your name." The response came immediately. Clear, respectful, steady. There was no hesitation, no explanation added, no defense offered. Just his name. The officer nodded once. "Your rank." The answer landed like a shockwave. Sharp breath cut through the formation as the assumption collapsed in an instant. The man they had ignored, the one they failed to salute, carried a rank earned through years of service, sacrifice, and responsibility. The inspecting officer turned to face the assembled personnel. "This is why we do not assume," he said. "And this is why we salute the uniform, not our opinions." His command followed without delay. "All personnel, render honors." In one unified motion, salutes rose again, this time deliberate, precise, and filled with recognition. The quiet sailor returned the salute with the same composed control he had shown all morning. There was no pride in his expression, no trace of resentment, only professionalism. As the inspection moved on, whispers followed afterward, spreading like a tide. Stories surface, missions unspoken, places unnamed, years of service few had known about. The quiet sailor had chosen duty over attention, responsibility, over praise. He spoke little because he listened deeply. He stayed in the background because, to him, leadership was never about being seen first. Later that day, the base gathered for a briefing. The atmosphere had shifted. Where confidence had once been casual, reflection now took its place. The inspecting officer addressed them again. "Rank is not always loud," he said. "Experience does not always announce itself. Leadership does. Not always demand attention. Sometimes it stands quietly and waits to see who understands respect." Eyes drifted toward the quiet sailor standing near the back, as he always did. This time, the looks carried understanding instead of judgment. Afterward, a young recruit approached him, nervous but sincere. "Sir," he said, snapping a proper salute, "I'm sorry." The quiet sailor returned the salute, and gave a small nod. "Learn from today," he said. "That's enough." The days that followed, the story spread beyond the pier, not as gossip, but as instruction. Recruits heard it during training. Officers referenced it during evaluations, not to embarrass, but to teach. Respect stopped being just a written rule. It became a lesson with meaning. The quiet sailor remained unchanged. His routines stayed the same. He never sought acknowledgement, but something around him had shifted. Salutes came without pause. Questions were asked with sincerity. When he spoke, people listened not only because of his rank, but because they had learned the cost of overlooking substance. Years later, long after inspections blurred into memory, a ceremony took place on the same pier. The ocean was calm once more, the flag moving gently in the breeze. The quiet sailor stood at the center not by instruction, but by recognition. As he received an honor for decades of service, the base stood in deep, respectful silence. The inspecting officer from that earlier day had long since retired, but his words endured. So did the lesson. In the Navy, respect is not optional. It is the foundation of trust, and trust is what carries people through the hardest days at sea. When the ceremony ended, salutes rose again, crisp, united, earned. And somewhere among the younger ranks, another quiet sailor stood watching, learning, understanding that true rank is revealed not by volume, but by character. If this story moved you and reminded you of the power of respect and the danger of judging by appearances, like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories here on